All right, let's talk about Google Play's policies. For developers, navigating these rules can feel, well, a little like trying to solve a puzzle in the dark. But here's an idea. What if they're not just a bunch of restrictions? What if they're actually a guide to building amazing, trustworthy apps? Let's dig into that.
So have you ever downloaded an app that just felt a little sketchy? You know, you've totally been there. You install it and right away something feels wrong. Maybe it's asking for way too many permissions, or it just flat out doesn't do what it said it would. As developers, we're users too, right? And that exact feeling is what Google Play's policies are trying to get rid of.
And that's really the heart of it. The best apps aren't just powerful, they're trustworthy. The entire Google Play ecosystem, with its billions of users and millions of apps, it all runs on one thing: trust. It's like the currency of the platform. When users trust Google Play, guess what? They download more apps, and that means your app. So following the rules, it's not just about dodging a suspension. It's about building a solid reputation for your own success.
Okay, let's break this all down into three main ideas, three pillars. Pillar number one is pretty straightforward. Be what you claim. Simple, right? But you'd be surprised how many apps trip up right here. It really all boils down to being honest and transparent from the moment a user sees your store listing to what your app actually does.
I like to think of your store listing as a promise you're making to the user. I mean, your title, your icon, the screenshots, that description, it's all setting an expectation. So the experience they get inside the app, it absolutely has to match up. What you see has to be what you get.
Okay, let's look at a super clear example of this. On one side, you have Photo Editor Pro. It's descriptive, it's honest, totally fine. But on the other, official Photoshop app. Whoa, that's a problem. That's a misleading claim, right? Unless, of course, you actually have permission from Adobe. That one little word, official, carries a ton of weight, and you really can't just throw it around.
So Google has a bunch of red flags they're always watching for. Some are kind of obvious, like claiming your app has impossible features, an X-ray vision op or something. But others are a bit more subtle, like designing your ads to look like system warnings, or trying to hide who's really behind the app. Oh, and a big one. Apps that help people create things like fake IDs or passports, yeah, that's a definite no-go.
And this quote from the policy itself, it makes one thing crystal clear. You can't just slap a label on your app that says prank or for entertainment purposes and think you're off the hook. That's not how it works. The so-called prank app loophole, it just doesn't exist. If your app is designed to be deceptive, it's against the rules. End of story. All right, on to our second pillar. If pillar one was all about respecting the user's intelligence, this one is about respecting their personal space. And by that, I mean their device, their data, their privacy, the whole shebang. So what exactly does Google mean when they say personal and sensitive user data? Well, it's a pretty broad definition. You've got the obvious things like location and contacts, but it also includes access to the camera, the microphone, your SMS and call logs, and even the inventory of other apps you have installed. All of that stuff is considered a user's private space. Now, to get access to any of that, you need the user's explicit permission. And it's a very specific two-part process. First, you need what's called a prominent disclosure. Basically, you have to tell them, right inside your app, what data you need and why you need it. Then, you can ask them to actually agree, by tapping accept or checking a box. You can only access that data after they've said yes.
And for some permissions, the bar is set really high. Take a look. If you want to access someone's SMS or call logs, your app has to be the one they've chosen as their main app for texting or calling. For background location, it has to be for a core feature, something the user actually expects, not just to track them for ads. And for all files access, that has to be absolutely essential for your app to even work.
And this next one is a huge deal. It's a hard and fast rule. You can never sell personal or sensitive user data, period. Trading that information with someone else for money is completely forbidden. There's no wiggle room on this one at all. Respecting the user also means respecting the integrity of their device. This means a few things. You can't push your own updates outside of the Play Store, you can't download and run executable code like .dex files from some other server, and you have to play nice with other apps. That means no messing with their functionality or their ads, and definitely no trying to get around Android's built-in security features. Okay, that brings us to our third and final pillar: keeping the ecosystem healthy.
This one is all about our shared responsibility as developers. It's about working together to make sure the Android platform stays modern, secure, and works well for everybody.
You've almost certainly run into the Target API level requirement. I know. It can feel like a chore having to update your app all the time. But there's a really important reason for it. Every new version of Android introduces critical security and privacy updates. So forcing apps to stay current is how Google protects the entire user base from old security holes. So how does this actually work? Well, it's basically a ticking clock. When a new Android version is released, the countdown begins. Any new apps or any updates to existing apps have 1 year to meet the new API level requirement. But what about older apps that don't get updated? They get 2 years. After that, they'll no longer be available to new users with modern devices. It's this rolling deadline that pushes the whole ecosystem forward.
Okay, let's wrap this up. When you look at all these policies, it's really easy to just see them as a bunch of obstacles you have to jump over. But let's try to look at it differently. What if we stop thinking about trust as just something you get from following the rules and start thinking of it as a core feature of your app? Think about it. An app that's totally honest, that respects its users' data, and that's built on a secure, modern foundation, that's not just a compliant app. It's a better app. It's the kind of app that people stick with, the kind that builds a great reputation. And that kind of commitment to your users always pays off.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. The question isn't just, is my app compliant with the rules? The real question is my app earning the trust it needs to succeed? Because honestly, in this super crowded world of Google Play, that trust might be the single most important feature you can ever build. Thanks for tuning in.